Righto, Jayden. Welcome to the March Ordinary Council meeting of Dubbo Regional Council. I advise that this meeting is being streamed live to the internet. All those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements, and upon joining these online meetings, you accept the condition that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as retained in the archive of the recorded council meetings and standing committee meetings. I now open the March Ordinary Council meeting, the time being 5:30 p.m. Item 1.1 is the prayer, which will be delivered tonight by Councillor Butler.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for our time together. We thank you for this body. I ask, Lord, that you would endow us with your wisdom from above. We thank you, Lord, that we recognise you as Lord over all. And I thank you that in the words of Albert Schweitzer, the great missionary in Africa, our purpose is to help and to serve others. We pray that we would fulfil that obligation. In Jesus' name we pray it. Amen.
Amen. Acknowledgement of country delivered by Councillor Ryan, please.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet, being the Binjang people from the Wiradjuri Nation, my people. I'd like to extend my respects to elders past, present, emerging, and I'd like to extend respect to everyone that meets here with us tonight, no matter your nationality, as we all come and sit together as one. Thanks.
Thank you. We now have a presentation. Dubbo Regional Council's governance team has been awarded a High Impact Award at the Resolve User Forum for the implementation of the new business paper system. The team implemented the new software in November last year in order to streamline processes, making it easier for councillors, staff and the community to access council's meeting documentation. There are 69 councils using Resolve across the country. The new software allows faster access and better usability, which council is taking full advantage of. Congratulations to the governance team, and we'll now have a presentation out the front and a photo with the presentation of the trophy. So I ask the governance team to please step out the front. Noting that there were numerous other members of the team implementing that system that aren't able to join us tonight. Next, we have leave of absence. I have a request for leave of absence from Councillor Pam Wells. Can I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Ryan, seconded by Councillor Ivey. Would the governance team please open the voting and councillors cast your votes? Just give us a wave. Declare that carried unanimously. Right, next up we have item 3, conflicts of interest. Does anyone have any conflicts of interest to declare? Councillor Cowley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Should it come up for discussion in the Culture and Community Committee, item 7.9, I have a significant but non-pecuniary conflict of interest to declare there should it come up.
Thank you. And I also have a conflict to declare. I declare a non-pecuniary significant interest in relation to item 9.5 on the agenda because I occupy Dubbo Regional Council's ex officio seat on the Burrendong Arboretum Land Manager Board, who unsuccessfully applied for a grant from the Badangra Wind Farm Community Benefit Fund 2026. I'll manage this by leaving the room and being out of sight during Council's consideration of this matter. Next we have 4.1, Ordinary Council Meeting 24 February 2026. Do I have a councillor to move the motion from the business paper for the confirmation of those minutes? Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Butler. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to that at all?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other debate, councillors? There being none, could the governance team please open the voting? Please cast your votes. Carried unanimously. Item 4.2, extraordinary council meeting 13 March 2026. I'll move this one with the amendment that the correcting the seconder on the item from Councillor Ryan to Councillor Richardson. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Ryan, thank you. Just fixing up there, given that the governance team was out of the room while we're in confidential session. Any debate, councillors? There being none, could the governance team please open the voting? Please cast your votes. Declare that carried unanimously. Next up, we have 6.1, mayoral appointments and meetings. I'll move that as per the business papers, and a seconder, please, Councillor Butler. Thank you. I'll take that as read. Any debate, councillors? There being none, please open the voting. Please cast your votes. Carried unanimously with Councillor Chowdhury raised hand. 6.2, mayoral expenses. The next item is mayoral expenses. I'll move that. Someone to second, please. Councillor Toynton, thank you. I'll take that as read. Any comments or debate, councillors? There being none, could governance please open the voting? Please cast your votes. Councillor Chowdhury's indicated in agreement. It's carried unanimously. 6.3, investments under Section 625 of the Local Government Act, February 2026. Do I have a councillor to move the motion in the business paper? Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Wright. Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to that at all?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? There being none, would governance please open the voting? Please cast your votes. Carried unanimously. Item 6.4, quarterly report on complaint statistics under Council's Code of Conduct 2025-2026, Quarter 2. Do I have a councillor to move the motion in the business paper? Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Ivey. Councillor Richardson, would you like to speak to that at all?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question. I noticed that there are 4 code of conducts there at a cost of $29,000. And how is that cost determined? Is that just internal time, or because I don't think any of the complaints were referred to a reviewer?
To the General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Rouse.
We don't investigate the code of conduct complaints. They all get referred to external conduct reviewers. So a number of them are finalised at the preliminary assessment stage, but that still is an external investigation process.
Thank you. Further question, Councillor Ivey?
Yeah, I just noticed. So one complaint there, I think, cost $14,000. Is that so? That was not just one review process, or was it?
To the General Manager.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Rouse.
Number 6.
Number 6. That one likely did have 2 investigation stages. So the initial one is preliminary assessment. If that's determined to likely require further investigation or potentially have a breach, it proceeds to a secondary stage, which is full investigation, which is an additional cost again. And $14,000 would be the average for 2-step process.
Thank you. Further questions, Councillor Toynton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just looking at some of the dates of these complaints here. I'm looking at DRC 26.1 on the second page in the report. Does this mean a complaint was found to be wrongdoing of a councillor. It's on there, quarter 2, DRC 26/1, where it says it's finalised, referred back to the General Manager under clause 6.13. The procedures of the Code of Conduct resolved by alternative and appropriate strategies. That didn't come before a council for resolution. Just wonder if we can get some clarity around that one, please.
Thank you to the General Manager.
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor, to Ms Rios.
Just, I'm not sure if this will answer your question, but to clarify, only matters recommended for censure will generally come to council. Otherwise, they're resolved without following the steps in the procedures for the Code of Conduct. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. And just a follow up, I see there's 2 here, 25.9, 25.10, declined under clause 5.3b of the procedures. Complaint was not made within 3 months. Yet, looking at our policy, it's 3 months from the date of alleged wrongdoing or 3 months from when the complainant becomes aware of it. Have we got any clarification as to how that date was determined to be out of the date range?
To the General Manager.
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor, I'll answer. I'm aware of one of them. So one was outside of the 3 months of the complainant being made aware of the issue. So that was very clear what came through to me. I've been careful with what I'm saying here because this is confidential. But certainly if that, and with the second one, if that's the determination, that would have been looked at in terms of either the date that the alleged code of conduct was undertaken or from when we were notified when they were saying that they knew about it. So we do look at that in terms of the procedure to check to make sure that it all sits within the black and white of the procedures.
Councillor Toynton, further?
Yes, so to discuss this further, would we have to go into a closed session or is this off limits to council due to its confidential nature?
To the General Manager.
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor. All of these are treated confidentially, so we don't actually share the nature of the complaints amongst the councillors. It only comes to council if there's a recommendation from the investigator to do so. So there's stuff there that, that complaints get lodged, they get assessed, and then there may be no further action. So that doesn't actually get distributed to any of the councillors here because we're protecting the privacy of both the councillor and the person making the complaint.
Further, Councillor Toynton? No. Any further debate? Councillors? No. There was only questions there, so no need for a right of reply. Thank you. We will put that motion then. Please open the voting. Please cast your votes. Carried unanimously. Questions from councillors. The next item is 6.5 questions from councillors. Do I have a councillor to move the motion that's in the business paper? Moved by Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Wright. Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to that at all?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions or debate, councillors? We'll take that as read then. Governance, please open the voting. Seven, matters considered by committees. A couple of questions on notice at this one. At the standing committee meetings held 10th of March 2026, the following questions were taken on notice. In relation to item 1.42, Water Quality Action Plan 2025 Annual Report, Councillor Ivey asked if there was an issue with removing chlorine from council assets, such as at Elston Park and the Cameron Park Fountain. I'll now ask the General Manager to respond.
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor. So as the Mayor mentioned, this was from the Water Quality Action Plan report. There was an action in there, I'll just look at the number 113, which was shown as complete, highlighted blue, which indicated it was an external agency that was responsible for that particular action. To understand the chlorine side of that, I'll just do a little history check if you'll indulge me. When we had the Dubbo bore water alert, we actually had to go through a process of diluting our reservoirs. So that meant filling them up and then dropping the levels down. We had to keep doing that repetitively to get it down to a 1% chance of having old water in there. So that chlorine that we talk about within this action was about, because it was potable water and we chlorinate our water, about being able to release that either onto the ground or into the stormwater system, which eventually gets into the river system. So we certainly had assistance from the EPA, from health, to talk to EPA about how we do that and to be allowed to do that, and then also do that in the future. So that was the reason why that was an action within the Water Quality Action Plan, to do with bore water alerts, and the way that we manage those, not necessarily about how we manage other water once it's outside of the water treatment plant. But the question was around the Cameron Park fountain. So it's not chlorinated. Well, there's chlorine in there because it's drinking water quality that goes into there. So that just gets irrigated onto the grounds when there's any works undertaken there. No different to someone watering their lawn from their taps. The Elston Park, that's actually chlorine dosed because it is like a water park. And that water actually goes into the sewage system and gets treated at the Dubbo sewage treatment plant. So there are two different things there because it's got more chlorine in it than what we do normally for drinking water. That answers the questions.
Thank you. In relation to item 2.3.2, report of the Youth Council meeting held 5 February 2026, Councillor Wright asked, how much input does Council have in relation to a music festival being organised by the Macquarie Conservatorium? I'll now ask the General Manager to respond, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and through to Mr Arms.
Thank you, Mr GM, through you, Mr Mayor. So the minutes here refer to a program that our arts and culture team run in collaboration with the Conservatorium of Music. We call it the Spring and Autumn Live event. There's two events throughout the year, one in spring and the other in autumn, perhaps unsurprisingly. It's been run for the last 2 years. It's designed to be to create safer, youth-friendly events. It's something that all youth acknowledge in surveys across the state, and this is one of our responses to that. It provides professional development for emerging musicians and addresses the lack of under-18 music venues in the region. So typically, our collaboration is that council provides the venue and the conservatorium provides the music with the bands and the artists. And together, at 2 times a year, we provide those two events in spring and autumn. And so it related to the Sister Cities report, in which we were looking to postpone the spring event to allow us time to move ahead with the Sister City arrangements, the student exchange. But we are running very well in line to do the spring event in October. We've been in consultation with the Conservatorium and they're very supportive of that. And we look forward to delivering that in due course.
Thank you. Next up, we have recommendations from standing committees. Unless there's an objection, I propose to move the following items on block, 7.1 through to 7.17. Any councillor wish to move that? Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Toynton. I'll now ask governance to open the voting, please. Please cast your votes. Carried unanimously. We now have notices of motion. 8.1 is review of surcharge purchaser duty for temporary visa holders purchasing or constructing new homes in regional New South Wales. Councillor Chowdhury has moved that.
I'd like to move that motion.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Wright. Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to bring that motion because, in Dubbo and this regional area, the government is pushing a lot of migrants and skilled migrants to come and settle in here. So in that current term, whoever coming with that skilled migration process, they are staying here 3 to 5 years. to get their permanent residency. Within that time frame, my idea is because these people are saving their money and working like a husband or wife, both working, saving their money, but they cannot invest in regional area. If they invest, they have to pay normal stamp duty, and they're not getting any first home buyer concession. Plus, on top of that, they're paying like a surcharge purchase duty around 9% of the total purchase price. So, for an example, if someone wants to buy land, like a $300,000, this stamp duty, normal stamp duty would become around $9,000. Plus, on top of that, they are paying $27,000 surcharge purchaser duty. So, which making them not encouraging them to invest in our regional city. So what they're happening, like after they get their permanent residency, most of them are leaving our region. Most of them are leaving and investing in big cities. So we're losing that money into from our region. So my idea is I'm requesting you all to support. It's not for council to paying any money or any support. We're just asking council to lobby with Treasury New South Wales and the Finance Ministry if we can minimize that cost and ask them like if they waive that surcharge that purchase duty, so they can save that 27,000. That will encourage them to invest in regional New South Wales. So within that 3 to 5 years time frame, when they have their house, most probably they're going to leave. They're not going to leave our region. So that's why I'm trying to push for this motion to asking your help and council to do some further work and help these people to, as you know, we are having like a housing shortage and everything. So through this one, I want only new land and home package, not like a existing. So that means they're not competing with their existing housing. They're bringing more housing into our region through this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors. Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'll make comment as well. Look, this policy that Councillor Chowdhury is referring to here it's an outdated policy that the state government brought in a number of years ago when there were a lot of non-residents purchasing properties in those metropolitan areas in New South Wales, and many of them were for foreign students, and there was some data out there that suggested a lot of those properties then remained vacant, and they were competing with residents in New South Wales to purchase property. It was driving up prices, and it was just becoming uncompetitive for locals to purchase property. So I get the idea of that for the metropolitan areas, but as Councillor Chowdhury indicated, there is a push to push skilled migrants or skilled non-residents out into the regions, and the stories I often hear are that they do come out here, but then they sort of pack up and leave for whatever particular reason. And there's no greater way to help make them stickier residents than them to have a home, a roof over their head that they can call their own home. So I like this policy. I'm sure there's plenty of other regional locations that would probably get behind this as well. I do especially like the fact that it does address the housing shortage side of things, that it is just for the purchase of land and construction of homes or buying a new home as opposed to competing for the existing stock. We do need more homes, and if we can encourage these skilled migrants to reside in Dubbo and stay here long term, I think this is a great way to do it. So I'll happily support it.
Thank you. Further debate, Councillor Toynton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question: does council are we aware of why the New South Wales government actually brought this surcharge in? Is that something that's included into our code of doing business?
To the General Manager.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Wright touched on the reasons behind it was to reduce, foreign investment coming into the country, but sort of sitting on property, for example. So it's sort of like that land banking and having, it ties up stock that residents cannot actually then access because it's locked away, so to speak. And that duty was just that deterrent for people to do that. So it's really more about if you want to do that, well, then there's a penalty rate for that. So that's through the Duties Act of 1997.
Councillor Toynton.
Sorry, I should have rephrased that question a little bit better. Does council actually recover any of that money, or are they instrumental in recovering that, or is that a tax paid directly to the state and federal government?
General Manager.
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor, yes, council doesn't see that. It's basically another New South Wales duty.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors. Councillor Ivey.
Just a question. I don't know if anyone know the answer, but is there a risk that the original problem may still exist, that people who temporary residents might buy the house or build the house and land bank it? Do they actually? What are the requirements? They do actually have to live in it to get the exemption. Could someone still do that by living or working in Sydney?
Is that to the staff or Councillor Chowdhury?
Well, I'll put it through you, Mr Mayor. Could you pass it on? Thank you.
Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to answer that?
Yep. Can you again ask the same question? What do you say?
Councillor Ivey.
What is to stop under this motion? What is to stop people building or buying a house in our region and land banking it, not living in it?
Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to answer that?
Is that? Yeah. It's on the same motion in number 6, owner occupation. Owner occupied, sorry. And yeah, sorry. And the thing is, like, I'll just give you a recent example. So one of our community member has purchased one of the land in Keswick, and he had to pay like a big money, extra money. And what we've seen, like my motion is more likely to bringing to people to invest, encourage to invest in region, because of when they see extra money, they want to hold, not to purchase it, become their peer. They don't want to spend like 30 to 40,000. So they like bank that money, not to buy. Once they get a peer, then a lot of other influence come to them and say, better invest in the big city, like a Sydney, Melbourne, other places. So we've seen like a lot of people are leaving our region and investing in like a bigger city.
Councillor Ivey, further question at all?
Yeah, I just noticed. I did notice that where it said that provided they commit to residing, is a bit of a loose term, I would have thought. But look, I'll vote in favour of it. But I just wonder whether or not. Well, I suppose again, I'm a little bit conscious of the fact that some advancement of visas come about by buying a business for less than $200,000 or $300,000. And anecdotally, I think that's actually happened in Wellington, where people have bought a business, which is basically a building, and then just left it empty. And that fast tracks the visa. And I just would hate to think that something like that might be flowing on from here. I suspect it won't, but I just wonder if it something we could watch that really would want to make sure that when people commit to living in the area, they do actually do that.
Further debate, councillors. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just be interested to see the numbers of people that are non-residents or non-permanent residents that have actually purchased land in the Dubbo region, and compared to how many are just happy to rent. If that was something that was available, probably through New South Wales government, I would say maybe.
We'll ask the General Manager, do you have any stats on hand?
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor. No, I don't have any of those stats at hand. I think the only way that would be able to be obtained would be, requesting information on the numbers of people that have paid the surcharge duty. That's the only way you could actually understand, not necessarily amounts, but the amount of purchases that have had that duty applied to it within the Dubbo local government area. But that's, potentially, if this gets up, that's some of the stuff that we could actually look for background in terms of what we put forth. So I don't actually see this as coming up with the answer to say it should be 50% of the search. It's basically just saying consider it. It might be looked at more of just opening up a conversation as opposed to having numbers and all that sort of stuff to supply to either Treasury or Finance.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? Councillor Butler.
Just a question. I think the important bit is part 6, where it talks about the commitment to residing in the designated regional local government area. How would that actually work in practice? Like, would they have to sign like a contract or something, or just give their word, or like how does one assure that they don't? I think Councillor Ivey alluded to it, that one would hope that it wouldn't happen. And anecdotally speaking, I agree with him that being involved in yard maintenance, there are houses in Wellington where some foreign owner literally owns it and nobody's in it. And people complain because the grass isn't kept or whatever. So it does appear to be happening, again, just anecdotally. So I think the key to this is this commitment. Like if they're going to come here and commit to living here and build a house and all that, well, that does sound quite reasonable. But my concern is maybe these commitments may be not really that strong. Just so the question is, how can we know that they'll commit?
I'll take that as an address and a question to the General Manager.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. As I read this, it's more about the intent to reside, not necessarily saying that it must. I don't think when we're right, if this gets up and we write, it's not saying people must reside in that dwelling for 1 year. That's not our call. It's really just to say the idea of this is going, reduce the duty for people that are legitimately wanting to live in the region. So it's more affordable to do that purchase. Certainly, I would suspect there'd be stuff around, like if this would get legs, it'd be about you need to be a resident and reside in that particular dwelling for a certain period of time. Otherwise, it might, it may then trigger something else in terms of, well, you're only there for a certain time. Now you've got to pay the full duty. That's really a process, and it's probably not our game. It's more about saying we acknowledge potentially that having this duty stops people on temporary work visas from settling and residing in the regions, and is there some way we could actually make that more affordable in terms of the duty process? So the word commit is, I'm sure that if something gets up in terms of Treasury, there would be some strict things around what commit actually means.
Thank you.
Councillor Chowdhury, you got further answer to the question? Yep.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to make a bit clear, because my intention is this one for regional visa holders. So people are already got their temporary resident and they already have to live in any regional area 3 to 5 years. So they cannot get their visa or any other opportunities through investing in housing. We are not like a Europe or other country. Some of the country in the world they do, but Australia don't have that facility. So this is main intent to people already have that pathway. They are residing in any regional area, so that way they can invest, get like a incentive. So they within the 3 to 5 years time, they already have that visa, so their pathway to PR. So within the time frame, they invest in our region, so that way they have more ties to living in our region, not left after that get PR. So it's more focused on regional visa. So they already got their visa. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer to Councillor Butler's question. Further debate, Councillor Ryan.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. Look, the first one, the temporary visa holder. So just to get my head around it, for example, if a temporary visa holder buys a house here in Wellington or Dubbo, then their visa runs out and they move back or go back to wherever they've come from, they still own the house here. What happens to that house? Have they got a lock on it? So it becomes like another empty house that we can't do anything with. And the second one is the wording, non-resident purchasers. What is a non-resident purchaser? Is that someone that's just not a resident of that region or that area? So would that be like me going to Bathurst and buying a house? Would I be a non-resident purchaser or?
The General Manager can never go first, and we'll go to Councillor Chowdhury for anything further on that.
Thank you. I'll do non-resident first, so we might actually tighten up the wording on that if, Councillor Chowdhury, because there's actually a definition. It's called a foreign person. It's actually in the legislation under the Foreign Acquisitions and Takeover Act of 1975. That's federal legislation. The Duties legislation, which is the Duties Act, which is New South Wales legislation, refers to that act for the definition of a foreign person. And a foreign person has got a number of things. So it's not just individuals, it's actually companies and trusts. So in this case, I think Councillor Chowdhury's intention is about individuals, which is an individual not ordinarily resident in Australia. They're the exact words, not the grammar's not that flash in the act, but that's the legal definition. So that's what I would then, that's all we can actually use to classify the intent of what this notice of motion's about, being a foreign person. The first, you're going to have to go for the first question for me again, Councillor Ryan.
Just if a temporary visa
Someone
holder,
leaves, yep.
temporary visa holder buys a house and then their visa does not, they don't become a permanent resident or whatnot, they go back to wherever they come from. Do they still own the house here in Australia, wherever it is? And then what happens to that house?
Yeah.
General Manager.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Not having a great knowledge in this, but I would imagine that, if someone has bought the house, like, I'll go back a step. If this notice of motion wasn't up and someone who was deemed to be a foreign person bought a property in Australia, they would still own it because they've bought that themselves. This is about the duty that's applicable for a foreign person, and I would imagine the same would apply, but there could potentially be some other rules around that in terms of if you then choose to go back to mother country, well, then there may be some other fees are applicable because you've forfeited that because you haven't had the full intention of a duration of whatever years. So I wouldn't think that that's something that we could just have state government lock up and say no one can ever use that because it is still someone's property that they've purchased.
Councillor Ryan, answer that. Yep. Thank you. Further debate, councillors? Councillor Butler? Yep.
Yep. So
Question?
thank you. Your question, to the General Manager then. If the definition is of that non-resident that we referred to, that Councillor Ryan referred to, is not ordinarily resident, that would tend to me to be the opposite of saying that they're committed to coming here.
Question to the General Manager.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. It's basically a legal definition that doesn't actually, it's not implying that they're not intending to stay. It's basically their status at that point in time. So temporary visa holder isn't someone who ordinarily resides in Australia because they're on a visa. So it's really a legal definition, not talking about intent to stay or not to stay.
Thank you.
Further debate, councillors. I'll just quickly say something. I fully understand the intent behind this motion and recognise that it would refer to actual people, individuals that come to our region to be able to buy a house. But when I've had a bit of a further look at it, I'm not going to support this because there's a whole overlay of state and federal immigration legislation, taxation law, and then international tax treaties umbrellaing that whole thing. And when I looked through here, it's got that started in 2016, the surcharge purchaser duty, it's basically like another 9% stamp duty on top. People can still buy New South Wales residential related property, but they've just got to pay an extra bit of stamp duty. And it's said between February 23 and April 24, foreign persons who were citizens of certain nations were not considered to be subject to surcharge purchaser duty due to international tax treaties. Changes in federal legislation means this no longer applies. It seems to me that the whole matter with all the different classes of visa holder and all of those sort of things could get very, very complicated, and it's something that we've got a whole heap of boffins sitting around in Treasury, state and federal Treasury and finance departments who have come up with this, and it seems like the intent is to stop a lot of money. I realise that Councillor Chowdhury is talking about people who come to Dubbo and work as you might be a doctor or a aged care facility or something like that, and that'd be fair enough if we could tighten it right down just to that, and then people had to sort of stay in their house type thing. But the policy settings are there for a reason, and that's to favour permanent residents and citizens over temporary visa holders, and to give permanent residents and citizens an advantage over different other groups that come in and out of the country at various times. So although I understand the intent behind it, I'm not going to vote for it because I just think that there's a whole range of things there that are all mixed in together. And the real reason it would push prices up more than likely for citizens and permanent residents by removing this 9% surcharge. So for those reasons, I'll vote against that. Councillor Dickerson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm certainly in favour of this, and one of the things that we know is that we've got people coming to our region, and as Councillor Wright mentioned, this is an outdated policy, and I understand fully why the New South Wales government would have implemented that policy many years ago, but things have changed now, and these residents that come, contribute to our community, we want to keep them here. So very much this is specifically around keeping them in regional areas. If they go back to Sydney, they would still have those taxes in place. Oh, it didn't work? Oh, okay, thank you. So I'm now Councillor Butler. So, so if they go back to Sydney, then effectively they would be disadvantaged, so they might be more likely to stay in a regional location. So that would be a huge advantage for our region. And again, Councillor Chowdhury said that it's not just Dubbo, it's regional areas. So we want to keep these people regional as much as possible. They come out here, they contribute, but then when it comes to the end and they can actually go back to Sydney, there's no real advantage for them staying here. So I think this is an excellent idea. We won't have to go through and make the rules. We won't have to go through and do the investigation of this. We're just really saying to the government, here's more feedback to say that we want to keep these people here in regional locations because we love when residents come from wherever they come. We don't mind if they come from 50 kilometres or 5,000 kilometres away. We want them part of our region, and this, I think, would keep people in this region for much longer. So I fully commend this, and well done, Councillor Chowdhury, on the research you've done to get it to this point.
I've got a question to the General Manager based on that comment addressed by Councillor Dickerson. The additional 9%, that's just a one-off. It's not a yearly fee. So whether someone then moved back to Sydney, it's just a one-off payment, like a stamp duty on a property. Is that correct?
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor. Yeah, so it's a one-off duty that's paid on the purchase of that property or land, and if that was sold, then people can sell it and then buy another property. They would still have to pay another duty on the second property that's bought. So it's a per purchase duty.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? There being none, we'll go back to Councillor Chowdhury as the mover for a right of reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, as Councillor Dickerson has mentioned, I'll request everyone to support this motion because it's I think I'm not putting any financial pressure on the council. We're just trying to lobbying to government state department to make sure these people stay in the region and they can invest more into our region. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll put that motion. Governance, please open the voting. Please cast your votes. Councillor Chowdhury in favour. Councillor Wright in favour. So that will be 5-5. I'll use my casting vote and vote against. So that's lost 5 votes to 5. Next up, we're up to 8.2, audit review of public toilets. Councillor Toynton, would you like to move your motion?
Moved as per the business papers.
Seconded by Councillor Richardson. Councillor Toynton, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, so the reasoning for this motion is that I've had a lot of members of the community say to me that the public toilets that they go to are in an absolute disgraceful state, some better than others. So this is calling for an audit to go around and see which ones may need to be cleaned or serviced more frequently. Whereas, and we also want to see that, damage is being reported to council. If there's missing toilet paper, dispensers, paper towel, soap, one facility I went to, there's a sign there, AED, look through the wall, it's missing. As a person who's lost a family member to a heart attack, I hate seeing that a machine that can save someone's life is missing where there is no reason for it to be missing. So I'd just like to see that if people who are maintaining these facilities do happen to notice that something like that's missing or damaged, like just report it. And so this is where if these places are, if the audit goes through, we see that, all right, these places need more frequent attention, then damaged or missing stuff can be replaced in a more timely manner than saying, okay, this facility is only looked after once or twice a week, whereas if it says, okay, well, maybe it needs to be looked after daily or a couple of times a day. But that's the intent of the motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate? Councillor Cowley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I do actually commend Councillor Toynton for this motion. I am a user of public toilets, and I too have noticed that some of them are less than stellar in terms of their cleanliness and maintenance. I have a couple of questions. Question is actually twofold. Could this review also provide a breakdown of the costing for the cleaning and maintenance of our facilities, our council-owned facilities and amenities? And also, I note the progression of the Bins for Blokes program, which was promoted by the Dubbo Prostate Cancer Support Group, which came to me back in July last year. So to know that that's underway and that we will be getting Bins for Blokes in some of our facilities is terrific, along with the Share the Dignity facilities. But could, and I do thank the team for their attention to this need, could I further ask if there can be possibly an opportunity for involvement from the Dubbo Prostate Cancer Support Group when these Bins for Blokes are promoted, please?
Thank you to the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and through to Mr Arms.
Mr GM, through you, Mr Mayor. Short answer to that is yes to all the above, I think. I think the motion almost demands a review into the costing of the cleaning, as well as the effectiveness and the procedures that we have in place to manage that effectiveness across the wide portfolio of public toilets that we have across the LGA. It's no small project, but I think there's certainly merit in it. And yes, the Bins for Blokes, we're making progress with regard to information on that, and this sort of fits into that as well. It'll be an integral part of the end report. And talking with the Prostate Foundation, if I'm not mistaken for the name, that representative body, sure, that would be a stakeholder group that we could make contact with, certainly.
Thank you. Councillor Cowley, further? Is that right?
No.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? Councillor Butler.
More of a question, just a very specific one. The Cameron Park toilets in Wellington, the appropriate director, what would be the service interval of that particular facility?
To the General Manager.
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor, to Mr Arms.
Thank you, Mr GM, through you, Mayor. Offhand, I'm not sure. The cleaning regime for our toilets is on a sliding scale depending on the usage. So the higher priority the toilet, the more service it receives. It would be a higher priority location. So I would, and also the toilets, the public toilets like that one in Wellington are cleaned by council staff, whereas in Dubbo they're cleaned by contractors. So that's an element that would be brought out in the report as well. But I would expect those toilets to be serviced at least once a day, if not multiple times per day. Again, depending on usage.
Thank you. Councillor Butler again.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thanks for your patience. So I guess the reason I asked the question is obviously a user of the said facilities. Unfortunately, my experience in the recent history has been that at times they're not only unclean, but downright not working. So the other day I went there and it was not the fault of council, of course, but someone had stuffed a toilet roll in the machine and it was unusable. So what I'm wondering, and maybe this is developing a question here again, is would there be worth investigating a possibility that there would be, in the event of such something, that there would be like a number contact, especially if it's a council clean toilet as opposed to the contractor, where if you do come across a situation like that where the facility is actually defunct, that there could be like a number to call to because obviously the cleaners, I'm sure they're doing a great job, you know, but sometimes the people in, you know, don't always help with the situation, and it may deliberate vandalism in that sense. So in the event of a deliberate vandalism where it needs immediate attention, as opposed to the regular general service, which may be once or twice a day or whatever it is, could there be a possibility of putting like a little contact saying, in the event that the facility is not working, please contact for immediate service, or whatever you want to call it.
6801 4000
Yeah.
to the General Manager.
Yeah.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. So regardless of whether it's a council staff maintained facility or we contract that out, it's all run through council. So we are responsible for the toilets. So really, as the Mayor said, it's our number. Customer service is the place to go to. Certainly, we encourage people to report so that we can understand where the issues are and have a good response time. So certainly encourage it where there's issues like that, that it's reported to council, and then we can organise by whichever means that we do to address that issue. Yep.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors. Councillor Ivey and Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question again on the subject of Cameron Park toilets. Within that audit, can something be done to look at the smell of those toilets? I understand it's got something to do with the internal or underground plumbing, but I don't know whether that's a separate issue. But it could certainly fall within this with this audit. You know, it at times I'm told it's almost unbearable, the smell.
Thank you to the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to Mr. Arms.
Thank you, GM. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we're aware of that also, Councillor Ivey. It's something that does come our way from time to time. We are having issues with that particular toilet. With all popular public amenities, they receive the full range of uses from a wide variety of users. And so I think this is an outcome of that. And so we're looking at what is causing that problem. That work can also be brought into this as well as part of the asset maintenance component of our public amenities, which is a very important consideration when building new amenities and manage them. The asset maintenance costs are integral to our thinking. So certainly we can include that.
Thank you. Councillor Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just probably a comment and maybe a couple of questions if I can. So it has been brought to my notice that the sanitary bins are not in all the toilets for women around the LGA. And if we can look at that, about stocking them along with bins for blokes. And also, just a comment. So during COVID, all the public toilets were locked. Nobody was allowed in them, like all day and night. So can we perhaps look at locking the toilets in at night and having someone or the cleaners come in and open them up at 7 a.m. the next morning to clean them? Would that cut down on a lot of the vandalism and the theft? I'm just wondering. I'm just throwing it out there as a general.
Thank you. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through to Mr. Arms.
Thank you, GM, through the Mayor. Again, it's a good operational recommendation, and it's something that we do on a number of high-profile toilets that do have locks and are lockable. Again, similar with the sanitary bins as well, there's a lot of public amenities and opportunities for sanitary bins to be located in them. And so at some point it becomes a cost per benefit ratio as well. And again, that is something that the motion as written would demand that we call out. So it's looking at what that balance is, and also balancing that against vandalism potential as well. And that's a real issue that we have, particularly when it comes to paper towels and soap as well. Again, it's a trade-off there between providing that service, but also managing the ongoing vandalism of those products. But yes, the locking of toilets and opening of them does provide an operational benefit. There's also an operational cost to that as well, because someone has to go and do that, whether it's staff, which then takes them away from other duties, or contractors, which is that outlay of money as well. And so all of that I would envisage being covered by the motion as it's read, and would be quite a detailed and no doubt interesting report.
No doubt. Thank you. Further, councillors? There being no further debate, we'll go back to Councillor Toynton for a right of reply.
Some great stuff that's come through, Mr Mayor, so glad that we've all been able to put through and say, yep, these are the things that we're all aware of that are lacking. And so hopefully when this report does come back, should this motion pass, this report will give us an insight to say, okay, this is where we can address all these issues that have been raised and hopefully go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Governance, please open the voting. Please cast your votes. Right, did you vote? Yeah. Carried unanimously. The next motion is 8.3, Clean Up Australia Day. Councillor Butler, would you like to move your motion?
Yes, you can move as in the business papers. Thank you.
Thank you. And a seconder, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Butler, would you like to speak to that motion?
Oh, yes, thank you. Just very briefly. Look, I just wanted to, it's just as it says, it's a report, just to see what is going on. I did have a request from a resident that felt somewhat, how would you call it, unhappy that it didn't appear that it was on the, or they perhaps couldn't find it on the website and things like that when it came to supporting the actual cleanup day, and they expressed their disappointment. So I said I'd look into it. And so, yes, if that report, I'm just looking forward to that report. Hopefully it's just a minimal sort of thing, but it will at least give that information as to what we do or don't do, and make the resident feel happier about it, or we could add things if there's things that aren't happening that should. So thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Just a question of clarity, actually, just around point C there. On its own, it suggests that we're going to vote here that the tip fees be waived for rubbish collected. Reading it as a whole, it indicates to me that a report will consider maybe tip fees waived, and I'm guessing the financial implications, the cost of that will come with that report. Can I just get some clarity about what we're voting for here, if I can?
General Manager.
Thank you. And through you, Mr Mayor, as I read it, it's about the report to consider that. It's not actually for council to say that we're going to waive those fees. And I'll just check with Councillor Butler if that's your intent. Yep. So that's how that was read.
Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I support this motion because, you know, like every year I do in South Lakes area that cleanup, and I found like a very rarely information being flow through our like a council page and promote that event. But you know, any resident can go to Clean Up Australia, their page, and they can see what's happening on that same day and which event been registered. So I always registered myself. But the thing is, I also thank the council, like at the day end, like a council staff comes and collect the bin. I haven't experienced any tip fees or anything. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? There being none, Councillor Butler, there was only a couple of questions there, so no need for a right of reply. Thank you. Governance, please open the voting. Please cast your votes. Councillor Cowley, just give us a wave if you're in favour. Thank you. Carried unanimously. 8.4, Innovative Road Pavement Materials, Investigation and Trial. Councillor Dickerson, would you like to move your motion? Seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Dickerson, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you. We were at a congress several years ago, a roads congress, and I remember speaking to some of the clever engineers there, and I talked about different road materials, and there didn't seem to be a lot of work being done in this nation. Could be that. So there didn't seem to be a lot of work being done in this nation around different road materials. It seemed like we were doing the same thing that we've always done for 100 years. And I saw some research, I won't mention any brand names, I saw some research being done overseas with some different materials. I had some discussions with Mr. Ryan last year before he had all the duties of general manager, when he was still in his old position. And I talked to him about some of these different materials and then went away and did some more research. And so I've come back with this, with the idea that we could look without a lot of expense, and I've had some discussions with Mr. Ryan about this, not getting consultants in, not going and doing a full-blown project, but just looking what there is around the world, because there are some different products that are out there around the world that would help us potentially keep a bit more longevity in some of our roads. And we know that so many people talk about potholes. It's probably the number one issue that people talk about with councils. They want to know when the roads are going to be fixed, when potholes are going to be fixed. We want our roads to be better, but we know we've got a limited budget. And if there are some materials out there that are being developed where we could use those to actually give us some better longevity and some better performance from our roads, then we should look at that. This council has already proven that we are quite innovative in our thinking. The 3D printed toilets is a perfect example of our innovative thinking in this particular LGA, and the state government copied our thinking when they built a couple of houses using that same methodology in terms of the duplexes built up in South Dubbo. So effectively, this would be another way of looking at, can we do something that is innovative? Can we do something that's utilising some research that's been done around the world? Ultimately, we might even do some trials. And again, I have some discussion with Mr. Ryan to make sure we weren't, this notice of motion is not imposing additional costs on council, but there may be, for example, some companies out there that would be prepared to give or use us as a trial site to run some potential areas of road through some new materials and have them side by side with some existing materials just to see how well they perform. Because ultimately, if we can reduce the budget for our 2,876 kilometres of road that we have to deliver better road outcomes, longer road outcomes, that would be better for all of our residents, because all of our residents typically use our roads, and also better for our budget and deliver more roads. So I'd love to see what's out there. I'd love to see if there are materials we could potentially use without committing any budget to that, and see what we can do along those lines. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate? Councillor Cowley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And just a quick question. Should this motion be supported, I wonder if there might be an investigation also to include any further developments in the effectiveness of paler coloured paving surfaces in reducing heat in urban areas. I know that there were some trials done in Western Sydney LGAs back in 2020, so we're not trying to reinvent the wheel, but the effectiveness of the cooler sealed surfaces was somewhat reduced by the fact that the surrounding infrastructure wasn't similarly made sympathetic. So I'm just wondering if there have been any developments, and if that might be something that we could include for our own new urban areas in this investigation.
Thank you. To the General Manager.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, talking about the notice of motion as it stands doesn't bring that into it naturally. So I would see that as a separate body of work, to be quite honest. It's because it's about materials for longevity, how this is. Yep. So it depends on your take on it, because if you're talking about environment, you can then go very wide in what that would be. And then, to be quite honest, that would start to get into the realms of needing to get someone else to come in and do that for us, as opposed to something that staff can do with the technical knowledge of durability of materials, as opposed to environmental advantages in terms of like heat that's generated from these materials. So I would see them as slightly different types of exercises. Not to say that you can put that forward to have that included for something not directly linked to this particular notice of motion, if that makes sense.
Thank you. We'll move an amendment. Further debate? Councillor Toynton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Dickerson did say that this would be, we'd look at having these companies donate this for trial and evaluation. Just that's not clear in item 3. It just says to incorporate trial section. So I'd just like to see if Councillor Dickerson would like to just add that into his motion to say that we'll seek that these companies that offer this technology would be willing to offer it to us at a as a trial for them to donate that to us. It's just not in the motion there about the cost. But other than that, I'm happy to support trialling new technology just as long as it's not coming at the expense of ratepayers. If we trial it and then it fails and then we've got a road that's rubbish and we're worse off financially because we then have to pay to rip it up and redo it again. But if that's tidied up, I'm happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dickerson.
I wouldn't go so far as to actually add the words free, because the idea of identifying future opportunities means that if the staff come up with a company that says we've got a great new product and we'd love you to try it for free, then that would be identifying those opportunities. So I think the current wording encompasses free or paid. It might be cheaper than existing technologies, but I wouldn't say just free. That was one example I gave. So I think the wording, to you, Councillor Twain, the wording that's there would cover, in my opinion, free, but also different costing opportunities, because the whole idea is identify future opportunities to incorporate trial sections of alternative pavement technologies. If a company comes to Mr Ryan and says, we've got this great product, we'd love someone to trial it, we're going to give it to you for free, I'm sure Mr Ryan won't say, no, sorry, we didn't have free in that notice of motion. It would be identifying opportunities. And this is all about bringing something back to council regardless. So I'm sure you're not going to go and build a road tomorrow out of new technology. You're going to come back to council and say, here's what we've found so far, here's some potential opportunities. So I wouldn't say we need to change it, Councillor Taunton, because it would encompass that as I read it.
Thank you. Councillor Taunton.
Sorry. Through you, Mr Mayor. No, thank you to Councillor Dickerson for clarifying that this will come to council at a future date. So that technology exists and here's the opportunity. So now that that's been cleared up, I'm happy to support.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm sure Councillor Dickerson is capable of speaking for himself, but just to pick up on the General Manager's comment there that environmental performance, I would have thought that would pick up on what Councillor Cowley said. We're talking about durability, that's durability. We're talking about lifespan, that's lifespan. And environmental performance would, I'm sure, encompass something like does have a beneficial effect on the environment by reducing the heat reflection or heat retention. So I would have thought that is covered within the motion. But as I say, perhaps Councillor Dickerson is better able to speak to it than me.
Thank you. A question, Councillor Dickerson's going to answer it. I was taking it as a comment, but anyway.
I'm happy to answer that. When I put that together, I was actually thinking of some of the products that are out there, Councillor Ivey and Councillor Cowley, that are made up of previously used materials. So it might have been crushed concrete that's now being reutilised in roadways, because I've seen some of that around the world. So I must admit my focus on the environment, the word environmental, was reutilising other products so we were kinder to the environment. I don't have any problem with the idea of creating a better environmental process, but I suppose that would really come down to Mr Ryan, the resources available to Mr Ryan, and what you would find out there. So that, I wasn't thinking of that, but it's what Councillor Cowley said initially makes a lot of sense, but my focus was the reutilisation of existing materials to be kinder to the environment.
And the General Manager might like to give some clarity around his thinking there.
Yeah, thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor. So thank you, Councillor Dickerson. That's how I read the notice of motion, and I was probably going to go another further step in terms of environment was the future reuse of that pavement material as well, because the one thing you don't want to do is put in a pavement that doesn't have like an EPA exemption or ability to reuse that again, and it's just then taken to the tip. So that's where I would have. That's where I was looking at the environmental aspect of this particular notice of motion. That's why my comments were. That's what, for me, that's more what I was focused on, as opposed to heat benefits or heat reduction within the urban environment. But I do take your point that that is an potential environmental outcome.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors. There being none, we'll go back to Councillor Dickerson as the mover for right of reply to anything.
The only thing I would say just on that point that Councillor Cowley and Councillor Ivey mentioned is that I'm sure when our staff are doing some of this research, if they do come across something that is road pavement that actually has something in there that says, by the way, this will reduce the heat canopy for your particular area, I'm sure the staff won't throw that out and say, well, we're not going to look at that then. We're only focused on the durability and the longevity and the cost of that. So I'm sure that will be taken into account as they're going through. And that might be something that we discover as we keep researching this, discover other items out there. And there's some work being done all around the world because we're not Robinson Crusoe. There are councils around the world, there are road builders around the world that suffer from these same problems. So I'm sure there's people out there looking at similar things. Thank you.
Thank you. Governance, please open the voting. Please cast your votes. Carried unanimously. We now have 8.5, Dubbo Regional Airport Fair and Sustainable Parking Model. Councillor Dickerson, would you like to move your motion?
So moved.
Seconded by Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Dickerson, would you like to speak to your motion?
This came about, Mr Mayor, from some anecdotes. And we all know that the plural of anecdote is anecdotes, not data. So I thought I'd actually sit back and find some data and research some data. And we've got a couple of issues with Dubbo Regional Airport at the moment. One is that on average, about 35% of our residents from Dubbo, this isn't Wellington residents as well, this is just Dubbo residents, about 35% of residents in Dubbo would use the airport at least once a year. So that means just in Dubbo alone, and it would probably be a slightly higher number for Wellington people, would be 65% of the people aren't using the airport. So it's a facility that's paid for by everyone, but obviously we try and gain our money back through passenger numbers going through the airport. But ultimately, when we're doing expansion, when we're doing work there, we'd love to see a net return back to council on an ongoing basis to use that money in the rest of the community. So keep that in mind for a start. 35% of people, on average, at least once a year would use the airport. The second thing that sprung up when I was out at the airport recently, I saw some cars there with spider webs growing off their wheels to the ground. And I looked at a few there as I walked through the airport and I thought, wow, we're getting more and more cars here and they seem to be here for a longer period of time. And I also noticed some obviously business vehicles that were parked there. And so I started doing a little bit more research and talked to a few more people. And I found that people were travelling overseas, travelling for long holidays, and they are using our car park there as a convenient location to leave their car for not a day or two, but weeks and months at a time. Now, ultimately, we're paying for the building of that car park. And I then wondered how much that had expanded over the years. And so I used the best data I could get hold of, which was a number of aerial photographs. So I managed to secure 40 or 50 aerial photographs over a span of about 15 years, and then looked at those and laboriously counted how many cars were parked in the car park in each of those aerial photographs. And I won't bore you all with all those numbers that I found and pulled out of that, but what I found were a couple of numbers, and councillors would have seen that I asked for a couple of these numbers just recently. So in 2016 was the first year, I remember we celebrated it, the first year that we cracked 200,000 passengers through our airport in passenger numbers. Very exciting. I remember at the time there'd been a few things that happened. Q400s came to Dubbo, a couple of extra airlines, 200,000 passengers, exciting times. And in that year when we hit 200,000 passengers, we had approximately 197 cars parked in the car park. The next year was the highest ever. 518,000 people went through our airport. Happy days, good money being generated for Dubbo. And on average, 216 cars were utilising our car park in those times. Ignore the COVID times, obviously numbers dropped quite dramatically, so ignore those. We're getting back to full usage of the airport. So last year, 189,413 people used our airport. So that's good, not back to our heyday, but good. So that's a drop of about 13% in our passenger numbers. But our car parking last year on average had 302 cars in our car park. Now, in all of these examples, I've excluded the car park that's a secure car park, mainly because I couldn't count the cars from an overhead photograph, but also that's been fairly consistent in its usage. So a 13% drop in passengers from 10 years ago, a 40% increase in our car parking. Now, why is that? It's because of those examples that I gave before, is people are using it for long-term car parking. It's free, why not? Businesses are using it where they're leaving a car there and that person that might fly out and then fly back in picks up their car and off they go again. But unfortunately, we as a council having to expand that car park continually. So my proposal here, and it ties in with what we saw go through ARIC, where ARIC was talking about still having some free car parking and some paid car parking in the general area, not the secure car parking. My biggest concern around that was that if you say to people, you can pay to park over there or free parking over there, I suspect they'll all go over here and park in the free car parking, which will then put more pressure on our resources to continually expand that car park. It's a grass area at the moment. There's a lip to drive over. That area might get used more and more. Maybe we'll have some free car parking on bitumen. But again, all these expenses are coming for the majority of our residents, but we've only got 35% of people using the airport. So this is really about giving our staff direction. Do we as a council want to see some free car parking at council still, long term, and some paid car parking? Or do we think it's fairer that all of the car park is used for people that want to use it long term for some sort of paid car parking? Now, you'll notice I put in the motion there for people that are flying down for a medical appointment, for example, or people that are flying down and back in a short term, I would still encourage us to have some form of free car parking for a short term. So for someone that can't get a medical appointment in Dubbo and they need to go to Sydney, well, maybe we don't need to charge them. So, and I don't want to get down in the debate on how long exactly, but it might be a day, it might be 2 days, it might be 3 days. That's for a later debate. But some form of free car parking for a short time. But if you stay after that, that's when you'll start paying. And I think what will happen is we'll have two things. One, we'll have fewer people using the car park, which is great because that means it's less pressure on our infrastructure. And if they are using the car park, then at least we're generating some off-tarmac income, which is something that we've talked about for many years. As long as I've been involved in council, we keep talking about generating more income off the tarmac and see if there's other ways we can generate income from the airport. So this is designed to address all of those issues. And again, it's not making a decision about some of those finer details tonight. It's really about giving our staff direction to say that we'd like to see some form of paid car parking for all the car park if you're going to use it for longer than just a down and back or a weekend trip to Sydney, for example. A bit like when you walk into drive into a shopping centre in Sydney, it might say X number of hours free, after that you pay. This will be the same X number of, I would think, days free, and then after that you start paying. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors. Councillor Toynton.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So with the proposal for free parking and paid parking, how do we actually enforce that? Do we have to put a fence up and say, okay, go in, clock your number plate, go out, you'll have to tap your card and pay for it before you leave? Otherwise, if it's I've been here for 2 days, I can just get in my car and drive over there, there's no fence to stop me. How do we actually enforce this, and what are the proposed costs to construct a facility that would allow us to do that? And then finally, how would we operate that? Would that be council operating that, or would we be, like Councillor Dickinson said, with Sydney models, would it be something like Wilson Parking or one of those big firms like that, which is, we'd see it similar to Belgravia with the pools. Something goes wrong, it's a private enterprise running it, something goes wrong, council's liable for the maintenance of it. I mean, as soon as someone says, oh, it's going to be $80, $90 to get your car out, yeah, right, and it's $20 at the wrecker for a new bumper, I'll just take the boom gate out and council can pay for that. So I'm just wondering how this is proposed to work and what facilities and what infrastructure we would need to construct to do this. Thank you.
Question to the General Manager.
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor. Yes, valid points in terms of understanding what that might be in terms of an outcome should it go to that. This is really about understanding about getting the data to understand what would be reasonable. Those costs in terms of infrastructure required to facilitate paid parking, for example, may be, yes, gated areas, fenced areas, could be number plate recognition technology, tap and go sort of thing. So that's really not straight into the meaning of this. This is about, for me, this is about understanding, a parking model. Those things would factor into it to understand how you would then operate that at a later stage. But this is about putting together some sort of a model to understand, is it worthwhile doing this to generating fees at the airports? And some of that data is about the numbers, the duration of stay, whether people, if we go free, what the sentiment of people would be. Would they just keep going over to the free area and having a whole lot of infrastructure there with no one going into those areas? So we would need to get some community understanding on how they would actually still operate and use the car park. So all of that would get moulded into a solution, and certainly the way you would manage that would feed into the cost benefit ratio of doing a particular project, no different to any other.
Thank you. Councillor Dickinson, answer?
The only I'd add to that, thank you, Mr Ryan, is that in our Audit Risk and Improvement Committee meeting that we've already resolved at Council, we actually had information in there that,
Confidential?
no, because it came through Council,
Has it? Let's check with the General Manager. Did it come through council?
Thank you, and through you, Mr Mayor. One of the recommendations in that audit risk or at the ARIC meeting was that the information be kept confidential. So happy to discuss the idea of paid parking, but not going into the details of a confidential report. Thank you.
thank you for pulling up on that. So I would say that we potentially as a council already have a boom gate in one secure area. If we're considering any paid parking, which we may be considering for a secure and non-secure area, there would be a boom gate anyway. Exactly as Councillor Taunton said, I'd imagine, but there are many options out there. Number plate recognition, stay under a certain time, you can drive out with no problem, stay over a certain time, you'd be charged just like those shopping centres in Sydney. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm happy to support this. There's a couple of things that sort of resonate with me. One of them certainly was that user pay type system, and Councillor Dickinson's already talked about the statistics about the users versus the non-users, but everyone's paying for it if you're a ratepayer in Dubbo. So I do like that that level of equity there. I too have also witnessed the same thing with vehicles with cobwebs on them as well that have obviously stayed there for a lot longer than a day or two. So why the council and the residents can subsidise the free parking of those vehicles for an extended period of time is a question I'd ask. Council has done a body of work on this already, so I think this will just complement some of that work that has been done already by staff. So this isn't starting from scratch. So I'm keen to see the results come out of this. I know there's a lot of talk about financial feasibility and long-term financial excuse me. Financial strength of councils. If this is a way to generate additional revenue without necessarily penalising the people that don't use this particular asset, then I'm happy to support it too. So, thank you.
Thank you. Further debate, Councillor Butler.
Yes. So maybe the debate for another time as to the time frame, but just to reiterate, I think one of the things in our local government area that is different to maybe to Wilson parking in Sydney or other things like that is the metro areas do have large internal networks of transport. So I guess I'm talking from experience as someone who lives out, south of the boonies, down there in Curra Creek. When I catch a plane, it's normally to go interstate. When I go interstate, you're generally 1 or 2 weeks. And it does provide a real problem trying to work out how do you get to the airport and then what do you do with your car when you actually live on a rural sort of property without access to public transport. Is that making it clear? So from my personal experience, maybe that's a debate for another day, whether it's 3 days or whether it's a week or 2 weeks. That could be another time perhaps. But I just wanted to put that in there to know that we are slightly different as a large area. There are those who use the airport that aren't in Dubbo as such. So that means that they have to travel a fair ways. And then, of course, when the plane comes back, it's really quite important to have your car waiting for you because you don't want to catch a taxi to Curra Creek, for instance. Just as for instance. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that we are slightly different in the sense that people who use the airport may not actually live in the city centre, and that ability to have extended car parking is, I think, a valuable thing for perhaps some residents as opposed to the more metro-based ones. Just thought I'd mention that.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? I'll just quickly say something. I note that 2 weeks ago in the committee, Councillor Ivey floated the idea of paid parking in one of his comments, and the manager of the airport said, we're doing exactly that right now. with regards to preparing a report. Look, I'm more than happy to let the staff do their job, have respect enough for the staff to do their job and prepare the report and bring it back to us, and then we can workshop the idea, move amendments and all those sorts of things. There's lots of unknowns, unknown unknowns and known unknowns and those sort of things to do with this model. And I'm more than happy to let the staff do their work. I know that there's probably something should have been done maybe a while ago to do with long-term parking, and especially the hire cars that are out there, the Budget, Avis, all of those sort of ones that should be paying, who tend to clog up the parking bays a bit. I note the overflow out the back as well. But like I said, I'm more than happy to not try and get in the road of some operational issues and try and get rid of a heap of staff and just move a heap of notices of motion here, save ratepayers money there. But if we're going to look at full cost recovery and those sort of things and the model floated, then no resident or ratepayer of the Dubbo Regional Council area should be paying for parking at all, since we already cross-subsidise the airport if there's going to be a paid parking model. And if we're going to look at putting a fee for a net return on ratepayers, we're going to do the same on the library. That's a debate for later once staff bring us a report and we can float these other models. And given that Councillor Dickinson's moved this up, I'm sure that that might be something that whoever's doing the report probably will have a watch of this debate and have a read of this and look to incorporate those sort of things in their report. There's a whole range of different models, but like I said, I'm happy for that already. I've already had a mayor from west of Dubbo ring me and today to express his objection at that, but not being a resident and ratepayer of the Dubbo Regional Council area, then that's sort of not really my remit. That's up to him. But look, who knows how many cars are parked there long term, full time. It's not like Dubai Airport where people leave their Lamborghini there and flee the country sort of thing. But I'm just prepared to respect the staff, to do the report that we know that they're already working on, and then we can workshop this as councillors and we can look at other models, probably including some of this sort of stuff as to how we might want to go forward into the future. Thank you. Further debate, councillors? There being none, we'll go back to Councillor Dickinson for a right of reply.
Yeah, thank you, Mr Mayor. So a few things there. I'll just pick up on Councillor Wright's point that generating some additional revenue. There's probably two parts to that. I'm happy for us to generate some additional revenue, but I also think it will save us some infrastructure costs, because even if we don't necessarily generate additional revenue, it'll stop us continuing to expand those car parks. And one of the things that I found interesting when I was looking through all those photos for those last 15 years was how much you just saw every few years the car park kept expanding without a lot of traffic on the tarmac to actually accommodate that. So it would be one of those two, but net result for Dubbo Regional Council would be a better bottom line through either additional revenue or through reduced infrastructure costs. And I understand exactly what Councillor Butler is saying, that there are people that do travel from further away to go through Dubbo Airport, and some of those people might know someone in Dubbo. If you want to leave your car at my place, Councillor Butler, you're more than welcome to. So sometimes there are other ways if you had to pay for it. But the issue that I have is that people spend money on a plane ticket. They fly interstate, so there's another plane ticket. They stay at a motel perhaps somewhere. So they have a holiday which might cost them thousands of dollars. We're not talking about charging them thousands of dollars. We're talking about a very small amount that we might add to their overall holiday to reduce the impost on Dubbo Regional Council. And the last one I'd pick up on is I understand fully the report that the Mayor is discussing or mentioning there. One of the things I was keen to do was to save some staff time. The staff at the moment will prepare a report that says, here's some free parking over here, here's some paid parking over there. This motion was really for the staff to understand the council sentiment on, do we want to continue for the average ratepayer to be subsidising infrastructure at the airport, or do we think it's fairer that the user pays for the infrastructure at the airport? And so this is really to give the staff more direction to refine that thinking, certainly not thinking about charging at the library, because the library's open and used by pretty much everyone in Dubbo. We have great usage there. This is really about the limited usage of the airport and the ability to pay, because people that can fly probably have a greater ability to pay than people that don't fly, the people that choose to get in their car and drive somewhere rather than those people that fly. So I think that's an issue. And I do remember when this debate came up a long time ago, there were some Western people, councillors, mayors, various people from the broader community outside Dubbo Regional Council that did complain about the fact that we might be charging. And my response now would be the same as then. One thing is that we're looking after Dubbo Regional Council. We're not taking money from ratepayers in those Western councils, but they're important to us, which is why I put in there about the concept of having free parking for a short period of time. So if they've got to travel in from out west to go to a hospital appointment or a medical appointment in Sydney, sure, I'm more than happy for them to have free car parking. If they're travelling from out west because they're going to somewhere overseas or interstate and having a holiday, I think it's fair and reasonable that they actually pay a little bit towards the infrastructure costs that we might have there at that particular airport. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Governance, please open the voting. Please cast your votes. In favour? That's passed, it'll be what, 6 votes to 4. Next item we have is, that's number 9 we're up to. Unless there's an objection, I propose that we move the following items on block. 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, all of the parking and traffic management items. Are there any objections? No. Can I have someone move that, please? Moved Councillor Cowley, seconded Councillor Ryan. Councillor, I don't need to speak to that because it's on block. Please open the voting, Governance. Carried unanimously. Next item is 9.4, changes to the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act 1979 and addressing a notice of motion renewable energy projects. Can I have someone move that, please? Moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Toynton. Thank you. Councillor Wright, would you like to speak to that motion?
No, I'm fine. Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Any debate, councillors? Councillor Ivey.
Just to make a comment, and again, I think Mr. Reardon referred to it in his, or touched on it in his public forum comments. What a great report. It sort of sets out the information that I think all councillors and all residents should be aware of. And I found it, I sort of knew most of what was in there, but gee, there was a lot in there that I thought, actually, I didn't quite realise that. And so I think it's a very useful report, and it's well written and well presented. So again, I'd commend the staff that put their time and effort into it. Thank you.
Thank you. Further debate? I'll just say that part of this touched on the changes by the state government to the EP&A Act around councils approving DAs. Metro councils haven't had that ability for a while, but that's now been or about to be taken off regional and rural councils and local planning panels making decisions on contentious DAs and those sort of things, which is really a slap in the face from fairly metro-centric government to councillors in regional and rural areas, considering that we're actually elected by our communities that we live in, and there's not the big corruption problems that seem to plague metro councils continually. So very disappointing outcome there. I know that through Country Mayors Association, the Local Government New South Wales Association, we've expressed our disappointment continually before this legislation was passed and continuing to express that to the government and the planning minister in particular, but it hasn't been implemented yet, but it's sitting there to be implemented at some stage. So quite disappointing that that's the way that they've chosen to go. Big developer lobby probably loving it. Thank you. Back to the mover for any further debate. Back to the mover for a right of reply to anything there. Councillor Wright.
No, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Governance, please open the voting. Please cast your votes. Councillor Butler, give us a wave if you're in favour or against. Thank you, that's all right. Carried unanimously. Next up, we have 9.5, Badangarra Wind Farm Community Benefit Fund 2026. Do I have someone to move that as per the business paper, please? Councillor Ivey, seconded by Councillor Cowley. Thank you. I declare a non-pecuniary significant interest in relation to this item on the agenda because I occupy Dubbo Regional Council's ex officio seat on the Burrendong Arboretum Land Manager Board, who unsuccessfully applied for a grant from the Badangarra Wind Farm Community Benefit Fund 2026. I'll manage this by leaving the room and being out of sight during Council's consideration of this matter. I now ask Councillor Philip Toynton, the Deputy Mayor, to chair this item? Thank you.
Okay, Mayor Black is out of the room and out of sight. Councillor Ivey, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor. Look, I think it's a great outcome. There was a lot of interest in a lot of applications. I think $170,000 worth or something of applications. So it was well and truly oversubscribed in that sense. But again, the half a dozen organisations there that have benefited from this community benefit fund. One, they're very worthy. Secondly, it will make a real difference to the community because, allied to that, thirdly, it represents a number of different organisations and community clubs, organisations within our local catchment area, if you like. That includes the Stewart Town Advancement Association, the Touch Football Association, Watts, and again, a couple of sporting clubs. So it's just great to see, and I know that that each one of those organisations will spend the money very wisely, and the multiplier effect that the community will get from those funds is quite significant. So, yeah, I'm very pleased to support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Any further debate, comments, councillors? To the General Manager.
Thank you, and through you, Deputy Mayor. Just wanted to point out one item there in the recommendation. It talks about round 10 in the recommendation. It's actually round 11, so just an error that we have in the numbering there. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll get governance to amend that so the record's accurately reflected. Anything further? Councillor Wright.
Quick one, Mr. Chair, just with respect to those acquittals. I see there was 9 outstanding in March last year, and there's still 9 outstanding now for an extra $20,000 or just under 20,000. Just want to know, is that work that council staff need to undertake with respect to those outstanding acquittals, or is that pushed back out to the actual the Badenga Wind Farm community benefit itself? I'm just not sure how that works, so maybe a bit of light around that.
To the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and to Mr. Arms.
Thank you, Mr. GM, through you, Mr. Mayor. There are some automated aspects through the Smarty Grants program that the recipients receive automatically, but we also chase them up as well. So we effectively run the operations of the grant process, which includes the acquittal as well. So we do our best to remind them, and they receive their automatic replies. So it's an important part of the process that recipients do acquit their public money in order to remain viable for future consideration.
Anything further, Councillor Wright?
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Any further debate, questions, comments, councillors? Being none, Councillor Ivey, would you like to write a reply?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for the promotion. I'll now ask the governance to open the voting. Councillors, please cast your votes. I'll have to put my hand up. My iPad's back down at the bench. Declare that carried unanimous. Could someone please call for the Mayor to return to the room for the next item? Thank you.
Next, we have item 9.6, Investment Policy Review 2026. Do I have someone to move the motion as per the business papers? Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Toynton. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to that motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any debate, councillors? There being none, I'll ask governance to open the voting, please. Please cast your votes. Carried unanimously. Next item is 9.7, Outcome of Public Exhibition Dubbo Regional Livestock Markets Advisory Group. Do I have someone to move that, please? Councillor Toynton, seconded by Councillor Cowley. Councillor Toynton, would you like to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a quick question. Will the terms of preference be updated at a later stage for this advisory group? Or is this set as is proposed?
General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and through to Ms Bathings-Waite.
The recommendation is advising that we remain as the current way of working, which is just get a group that is created for a special purpose. So, for example, we have the project of the shade sales going over the yard. So we get those groups together, or those impacted stakeholders, as per this.
Thank you, Councillor Toynton. That answered that. Thank you. Further debate, councillors? Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have just a quick question because we can see through that engagement report, there was not much attention for this committee. So my question would be, why then we're going to this term and reference? And is that a stakeholder from that DRLM? Are they really interested? Because when I last talked to them, they are not really interested to have that committee. Am I reading something wrong? Thank you.
General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and through to Ms Bathings-Waite.
This report is not recommending that we are standing up a committee. This report is staying with an advisory group, not a committee. So not a council-run committee, it's just the advisory group.
Thank you. Further debate, councillors? There being none, we'll ask governance to open the voting, please. Please cast your votes. Carried unanimously. 9.8, naming of thoroughfare associated with development consent D25-322 Capital Drive, Dubbo. Do I have someone to move that as per the business papers? Councillor Chowdhury, seconded by Councillor Ryan. Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury, would you like to speak to that at all?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Thanks. Further debate, councillors? There being none, governance, please open the voting. Please cast your votes. Carried unanimously. We're now up to items 10, questions on notice. 10.1, rehabilitation facility update. We now have before us in the business papers a question on notice from Councillor Toynton with the response provided. Does anyone have any clarifying questions? No. 10.2, Code of Meeting Practice. We now have before us a question in the business papers on notice from Councillor Toynton with the response provided. Does anyone have any clarifying questions? No. 10.3, e-bikes and e-scooters. We have a question from Councillor Cowley and we'll receive a verbal response from the General Manager.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I'll pass this one through to Mr Godfrey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Cowley, for your question. We cast our minds back to post Y2K bug pandemonium and 24th of January 2000, because this was the last time this matter was actually considered by Council. So back in January 24th, 2000, Council did deal with a matter concerning designated footpath areas for no bicycles, and signage associated with that in the Dubbo CBD area. And it is my understanding, after undertaking some inspections in that location, that there was signage installed, but a lot of which now do no longer exist. So a count was undertaken by staff, and we have about 6 signs actually remaining there. Further, we have noted, obviously, post-amalgamation, there are no signs that we are aware of in the Wellington CBD area or any of the village shopping precincts or some of the Dubbo urban shopping precincts as well. Currently, there is no identified budget within the Capital Works program to proceed any further with a new sign rollout or renewal project. And in terms of costs associated with it, it comes down to economies of scale. Installing 1 or 2 signs is likely to be a lot more expensive than on a per sign basis, I might add, than a broader transportation plan across the LGA, which would include Wellington villages and any other urban shopping precincts, and then a sign rollout that would cover the whole lot at once. So there would be some economies of scale to be had if that matter were to be addressed that way. There are issues with actually installing signage like that down in the CBD area, particularly in Dubbo. The paved structure down there actually has concrete underneath it and it's heavily congested with services. So even though it looks fairly simple, there's a fair bit of cost associated with all your service investigation and actually in cutting through the concrete beneath those pavers and installing such signage. So obviously a matter of consideration for such a project as well. In terms of the legislation around vehicles using footpaths, there's different sort of rules depending on the types of vehicle that's being used. In the case of e-bikes, for example, e-bikes are similar and they're treated in a similar fashion to actual bicycles for the purposes of, like within New South Wales legislation anyway, and they can be ridden on footpaths with some caveats. Generally, though, if you're 16 years or older, you must not ride on a footpath unless there are a few exceptions to that rule. If you're an adult accompanying a child, for example, you would become exempt to that rule. And there's certain postal duties that can apply as well and medical exemptions. Children under 16 can actually ride on footpaths unless there are no bicycle signs installed. And under Rule 252 of the New South Wales Roads Act, roads rules, I should say, a bicycle rider must not ride on a length of road or footpath to which a no bicycle sign or marking has actually been applied. E-scooters, on the other hand, they are blanket illegal, basically within New South Wales, with the exception of a few trial sites that exist around the state, and none of those trial sites are within the Dubbo LGA. Regular scooters and skateboards and roller skates are actually treated differently. They are actually permitted on footpaths unless otherwise marked, although users must actually give way to pedestrians and comply with the applicable road rules that are in place. I suppose, though, in closing, Council doesn't have a funded program for this kind of work, and if we wish to revisit the matter, I would suggest that we prepare a traffic plan that encompasses all of the LGA and all areas specifically at the same time so that the matter can be addressed.
Thank you. Any clarifying questions about that information? No. We move on to comments. We'll now go around the room for comments from any councillors. We'll start with Councillor Richardson.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Haven't really got much to say actually, for a change. Going to the ALGWA conference this Thursday. Quite looking forward to it. Hopefully I'll catch up with some councillors that I met at the conference last year and also through the locale learning program, which was great. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan. Nothing this week, month, wherever we are. Councillor Cowley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just very quickly, I had the opportunity recently to attend a performance from the Wesley House Players called Eternity. Brilliantly written script, fabulous production, lots of local identities involved, and they're all volunteers, put on a great show. Again, goes to the value and the depth of creative talent that we have in our community. There are still 3 shows left, so if you'd like to go this weekend, please do so. All the details are on their website, Wesley House Players Theatre Company. On that note, I noticed that the Dubbo Theatre Company is also producing their performance of Come From Away, which is a particularly grueling performance, and again, very much worthy of our support. They were, unfortunately, their performances were interrupted with the tragedy that happened at the DRTCC just before they opened last year. So those performances are coming up in May. Please support the Dubbo Theatre Company and the DRTCC if you can. And on the note of the DRTCC, I was fortunate enough again to attend the immersion production that the Dubbo College Senior Campus put on. with the support of the Dubbo Regional Theatre and Convention Centre staff. And it's a collaboration between the senior campus and our technical staff it's a hands-on course that the students do through their Certificate 3 work through the school. So it's a wonderful opportunity for Dubbo Regional Theatre to not only to convey some of the skills that we have within our staff there, but also to breed our own technical crews. And the performance that resulted was fantastic. So there's an opportunity, I think, that exists with some of our other facilities, being council-owned facilities, to do similar sorts of collaborations, and I'd love to see more of that in future.
Thank you. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to pick up on some of the comments that Ms Pepperell made in the public forum about the public forum process. Again, I would agree with just about everything she said there. I think it is a great pity. I think the public forum is a useful exercise. I know I get quite a lot out of listening to people and watching people, how they present what they're doing and how passionate they are. I think it's a great facility that, or an opportunity for the public to come along and express their views. The changes that Minister Honig has made in the Code of Meeting Practice have absolutely gone diametrically opposed to a lot of those, or had the diametric opposite effect of making it less transparent. The timing, we've, as council, opted at 4:30 because it cannot be part of the meeting, which is obviously the logical thing, like it used to be. Don't see what the problem there is, and to have it on another night really doesn't work. So I think it's got to be on the same day or preceding the council meeting. 4:30, again, as Ms Pepperell said, does preclude a lot of people. It's not convenient. I think everything that she said there, though, the only thing is I was at the local government conference in October last year when I think almost word for word those words were presented to Minister Honig in person, and it was like water off a duck's back. He just didn't take any notice at all. I would hope that some of the Labor people within our council might be able to influence increase the pressure on some of those within the political system to have that whole process under review and potentially and eventually changed. So I just ask that whenever we as councillors or get the opportunity within the public to explain that it wasn't our doing, that we are opposed to it, and that the more pressure that can be put on our politicians to have it reversed, the better. Thank you.
Councillor Wright.
Councillor Ivey, but nothing else from me, though. Thank you.
Councillor Butler.
Yes, I'd like to have a bit of a, I guess you call it a shout out to the, if you remind me of her name, the lady who organised the senior citizens.
Rasan Hill.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Yes, Rasan. It was a name I wasn't used to, so it sort of didn't jog in the memory. But I just wanted to thank her and obviously also Mayor Josh and Deputy Mayor Toyton for the amazing barbecuing they did. It was definitely, how would you call it, memorable. I thought they did a great job, so well done, guys. And it was a wonderful event. The older people, I'm pretty confident they really enjoyed it. And it was a great day. And I think they had one in Dubbo too the following week, so I didn't go to that one, but I was able to go to the Wellington one. So shout out to that one. And also, just thank you for the Stop Boree people here today. I just wanted to recognise their presence and thank them for coming. I was one of the people, I think most councillors were able to go on the tour. I think there was only one or two that didn't. I don't know if that's the case. But, so particularly thank you to Mary as well for the tour of the site at Boree. And it was very, how would you call it, enlightening. I felt it gave a real sense of just how big this project is, and conversely how much arable land, prime land, what we call food growing land, will be actually I would suggest devastated by the project. I can't see how it would ever be recovered. They talk about end of life type processes, but I just can't see a realistic way you would actually rehabilitate that land to where it is today. And given the current crisis around the world, I think we are vulnerable as a nation in terms of food security. And I do think that having more prime land is better than less. So I just wanted to recognise, thank you for coming along. And if anyone hasn't gone, please let me encourage you. It's not only just an opportunity to see the area physically, but also to engage with some of the people who are affected. And I think that is a key thing if we're going to go forward in time and support or help our residents that put us in place, basically, then we need to engage with them. And that sounds basic, but I think Peter read and spoke well that the van wasn't. I think he said the last text was November. So, and they've been doing that with other people as well. So I wanted to just mention that too, that the tour was really good, and I wanted to thank you for it. And for those who went on, I'm sure you would have found it equally valuable. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dickerson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I've got sad news and happy news this week. I want to make mention of someone who inspired a lot of people in our community and was our sports person of the year last year for Dubbo, Raisa, who unfortunately passed away last week. And she was an inspiration to many people. She was in her probably late 60s and was running marathons all over the world. And many people looked to her for inspiration. And unfortunately, she did die doing what she loved, running a half marathon this time down in Orange. And so obviously terrible for her husband Adam and the kids Andre and Lara and Tamara, who obviously would think that their mum would keep running, and mum and wife would keep running for decades to come, as I did and as many people did. So parkrun this Saturday, there is a tribute parkrun to Rieza for anyone that's been impacted by Rieza, that's been inspired by Rieza. I'd encourage them to go along. I certainly remember the first marathon I ran, and Rieza got me dragged along, and I ran many mornings with Rieza and talked about a whole range of things. So a huge loss to our community and a huge loss to someone that inspired many people. So very, very sad for the Dubbo running community. Flip over to the happy side now, and we've already heard tonight about how innovative this council has proven to be in the past with things like the bitumen process that we'll go through, about the 3D printed toilets. But the thing that's been on many people's minds over the last few weeks, and I've certainly received a few phone calls from as far away as Perth, certainly some calls from Sydney and people in the local environment, without a doubt, has been the topic of electric vehicles, because I'm not sure if you've noticed it, but petrol prices seem to have gone up. And one of the things that I think we did very well as a council is we certainly have led the way, and there are people who are driving electric vehicles in this community already that have been, or looking at the leadership that Dubbo City Council and Dubbo Regional Council have shown back in 2015. The very first mayoral vehicle in this nation was from Dubbo City Council. And then 2022, we had an innovative policy that we introduced that looked at the total cost of ownership of vehicles and then allowed our staff, for example, to choose an electric vehicle that might have been above the purchase price of the car that was part of their package, but looking at the total cost of ownership was allowed to get that vehicle. And many of our staff are driving electric vehicles right now because of that policy that was very innovative. I'm not sure if it was the first policy that looked at that in the nation, but certainly one of the leading policies in the nation. Now, the interesting thing about that policy was we modelled the total cost of ownership for that vehicle over the lifetime of that vehicle on, wait for it, $1.50 a litre for the average price of petrol over that total term of ownership. Now, I just had a quick check on Fuel Check. $2.83 is the petrol in Wellington at the moment. There are places across the state that it's over $3 a litre. So that modelling for that TCO of electric vehicle obviously is even much stronger now. So congratulations to the Regional Council, pat ourselves on the back for showing that leadership in our community. I think we'll see more of that from electric vehicle perspective, but certainly in other areas we've been shown to be a brave council prepared to make brave decisions, and the hindsight of looking back over time, those decisions have obviously been very positive. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Chowdhury.
I leave for our Deputy Mayor my time.
Thank you. Councillor Toynton.
Thank you. So, probably over the last month, I was able to we've all had a visit out to the proposed solar site with Ben at Geary. However, that's 3,000 acres. Now, I met with Mr. and Mrs. Roberts, whose property and land holdings go from Saxa Road all the way into and beyond the boundaries of Warrumbungle's council. There are 2 solar facilities proposed out there, one either side of the road, that will dwarf the size of Wellington. So we're talking over 10,000 acres of solar on one side and a further 10,000 on another. They've also told me there's at least 4 proponents out there that have already secured land. So I just wanted to touch onto this. For every acre that is taken up with solar projects, is an acre less of grain that can be grown. Now, from a farming perspective, in a bad year, 1 acre will yield you 1 tonne back of wheat. So if we're looking at over 10,000 tonnes of wheat not grown in this area, what's going to happen to the price of staples of food? Like we've just seen, as Councillor Dixon pointed out, fuel, like petrol's over $2.80 a litre. Diesel, as I came in, I was mortified, it's hit over $3.17 a litre. Now, it won't take long for the likes of Coles, Woolworths, any of those ones to sit and say, well, grain's going up because there's less people able to grow it. That will have that flow-on effect if we do not address this issue and stop these solar farms from running roughshod over us. And on some happy notes, we had the Senior Citizens Expo both in Wellington and in Dubbo. I attended both with the Mayor and other councillors. Councillor Cowley was at the Dubbo one. And as was pointed out, barbecuing was top-notch at Wellington, so I'm glad everyone really enjoyed that. None hit the floor, none were burnt. It was a really great day. And this hammers home for anyone watching at home. If you know someone who's getting on in age and could make do with some of these services, well, reach out to council, as council organised the Seniors Expo event at Dubbo. So if you saw something there and you think, that could have helped one of my friends out, get in touch with us. We'll put you in touch with any of the exhibitors that were there, whether you need some in-home care or mobility modifications to your house. So it was really great to see that this was open for everybody to come along, have a look, and just see what services are available. So huge, shout out to council for promoting that within the community. And I think that was again with Raisa. So who's not here tonight, but shout out to Raisa and the great work that her team and the team work that council does. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep, Rasan. Great barbecuing by Councillor Toynton and Gordon at the Senior Citizens event in Wellington. We had a really good residents' night the other week in Dubbo, where we had Councillor Wells did a really good explanation of the difference between a welcome and acknowledgement of country. Thanks to all the stall holders that came along, we had 92 new residents attend, and 63 of those had moved to Dubbo in the last 2 years. So that was really good. And one of the big takeaways was the prostate cancer support group. All blokes should get a PSA test. A couple other things we've got. Now, Councillor Ivey mentioned about chasing up the local government minister. Councillor Ivey, it's not just Labor people who have been doing this ad infinitum. Country mayors, local government, New South Wales, everyone has been doing it. No doubt you've contacted him as well. And one of the problems we've got is that you can't attend virtually at an extraordinary meeting unless you've got if you're sick, caring or whatever. And given that extraordinary meetings, councillors are only part-time, you can't plan your travel. And there should be a blanket exemption for people to get on a meeting, an extraordinary meeting, because they can be called at very short notice and people are all over the place for work. So, yes, there's a lot of tweaks that are needed there. One of the things about solar farms, looking at the Maryvale one on my way down here again today, is I do not understand why the state government has not enforced like a 40 or 50 metre tree buffer to be planted around all these solar farms. If they're going to drop them in our community, then they could at least improve the biodiversity and also screen out the view of them, which seem to affect most people. 99% of the problem nearly taken care of in a lot of cases. But anyway, and good to see not just the Stop Boree Creek, but we've got the Stop Hampton Park group here as well. That concludes the comments section. We now move on to confidential matters. The next items for consideration are deemed to be confidential under Section 10A of the Local Government Act. The next items, being items 12.1 and 12.2, have been identified as likely to be discussed in a closed session of council. Can I now have someone move us into confidential session to deal with the items? Councillor Cowley, Councillor Ivey, seconded. We've had no applications from members of the public to make their representations regarding whether the meeting should be closed to the public. And the gallery is cleared. I'll now open the electronic voting on that. Please, governance, please open the voting. Please cast your votes. Carried unanimously. I declare the motion carried unanimously. We will now move into closed session, the time being 7:35 p.m. The streaming will now be turned off and any members of the public will be asked to leave the chamber. The chamber will be reopened and the live stream restarted after deliberations on these matters with the resolutions to be made public. Please stop the Please start the web streaming. The council returned to open session at 7:49 p.m. Welcome back. I now ask the governance officer to play the resolutions from the confidential session. There are no further items for consideration of the ordinary council meeting, and I declare the meeting closed, the time being 7:50 p.m. Web streaming is now being completed. Thank you for your attention.